The name Pelican Bay State Prison is rarely spoken without the word isolation close behind it. The facility sits in the far northwest corner of California, near the Oregon border. It is physically remote and administratively insulated. When it opens in 1989, it is designed to hold the state's most restricted prisoners. Its defining feature is the Security Housing Unit, commonly known as the SHU. In this unit, men are confined alone in concrete cells for 22.5 to 24 hours a day. For decades, this arrangement operates with little interruption. By the late 2000s, the long-term use of solitary confinement at Pelican Bay becomes the subject of national scrutiny. Lawsuits accumulate. International human rights organizations issue reports. Medical professionals warn about psychological damage. Hunger strikes organized by prisoners draw public attention. California officials respond with a proposal that appears to mark a turning point. It is called the Step-Down Program. The Step-Down Program is introduced as a structured path out of indefinite solitary confinement. It promises a gradual transition from the SHU back to general population. The program is framed as behavioral, incentive-based, and rehabilitative. Prison officials describe it as evidence of reform. The language is procedural and administrative. The goal, according to the state, is to reward positive behavior and reduce violence. If stories like this matter to you, consider subscribing, because what happens next reveals how this system truly works. On paper, the Step-Down program is organized into phases. Each phase is supposed to last a fixed period, often 1 to 2 years. Advancement depends on rule compliance, participation in assigned activities, and avoidance of disciplinary violations. Completion of the final phase leads to release from the SHU. The process is described as linear and objective. It is presented as a clear alternative to indefinite isolation. In practice, the program functions very differently. Most men assigned to the Step-Down program at Pelican Bay enter after spending years, sometimes decades, in solitary confinement. Many are placed in the SHU not for recent violent acts, but for alleged gang affiliation. These determinations often rely on confidential informants, possession of certain reading materials, or association with other prisoners. Once labeled, release from the SHU becomes extremely difficult. The Step-Down program does not begin with a clean slate. It is layered on top of this existing system. Prisoners already classified as gang-affiliated must prove a negative. They must demonstrate that they no longer pose a threat, even when the criteria for threat assessment remain vague. The burden of proof rests almost entirely on the prisoner. One of the core requirements of the Step-Down program is participation in so-called cognitive and behavioral journals. Prisoners are given workbooks that include questions about personal responsibility, decision-making, and attitudes toward authority. The responses are reviewed by staff. The evaluations are subjective. There is no standardized scoring system shared with prisoners. There is no clear explanation of what constitutes a satisfactory answer. Advancement decisions are made by classification committees. These committees include correctional officers and administrative staff. Mental health professionals are often not central to the process. Prisoners do not receive detailed explanations for denials or setbacks. Written notices use general language. Phrases like insufficient progress or continued safety concerns are common. Specific guidance is rare. Many participants report remaining in the same phase for years beyond the expected timeline. They comply with rules. They complete assignments. They avoid disciplinary infractions. Still, advancement does not occur. Requests for clarification go unanswered or receive generic responses. The process becomes opaque. Confidential information continues to play a significant role. Prisoners are told that undisclosed intelligence prevents their progression. They are not allowed to see the evidence. They are not allowed to challenge its accuracy. This mirrors the original gang validation process that placed many of them in the SHU in the first place. The Step-Down program does not eliminate this dynamic. It reinforces it. Setbacks are common. A minor infraction can result in demotion to an earlier phase. In some cases, men are returned to the beginning of the program. The infraction does not have to involve violence. It can involve possession of unauthorized property or perceived noncompliance with program expectations. The punishment is severe in proportion to the violation. Years of progress can be erased. The psychological toll of this system is well documented. Long-term solitary confinement is associated with anxiety, depression, cognitive impairment, and difficulty with social interaction. Many men entering the step-down program have spent more than 10 years in near total isolation. Some have spent over 20. The program does not provide meaningful preparation for social reintegration. Mental health services remain limited. Therapy sessions, when they occur, are brief and infrequent. Group therapy is often unavailable until the later phases, if at all. The expectation is that individuals who have lived alone for decades will adapt quickly to increased social contact. There is little acknowledgement of the trauma caused by prolonged isolation. The step-down program assumes a level of psychological stability that many participants do not possess. This is not because of inherent danger, but because of the conditions imposed on them. When prisoners struggle to adjust, their difficulties are often interpreted as noncompliance or risk. This interpretation leads to stagnation or regression within the program. Advocacy organizations document these patterns through interviews and legal filings. Reports describe the step-down program as unpredictable and arbitrary. Prisoners describe feeling trapped in a system that promises movement but delivers delay. The language of reform contrasts sharply with lived experience. The state uses the existence of the step-down program as a defense in court. Officials argue that indefinite solitary confinement no longer exists because a pathway out is available. Judges and policymakers are told that isolation is now conditional and temporary. The reality is more complex. Because advancement criteria are unclear and discretionary, isolation continues under a different framework. Men remain in SHU cells for extended periods, technically enrolled in a program but functionally unchanged in status. The physical conditions remain the same. The social deprivation remains the same. Only the label shifts. The step-down program also introduces new pressures. Participation requires self-disclosure. Prisoners are expected to discuss past behavior, associations, and beliefs. There is fear that honesty will be used against them. There is fear that refusal to participate will stall progress. This creates a coercive environment. Some prisoners choose to disengage. They complete assignments minimally or stop engaging altogether. This decision is sometimes interpreted as defiance. In response, advancement is denied. The cycle continues. Oversight is limited. External monitoring of the step-down program is minimal. Data on outcomes is not consistently published. Independent evaluation is rare. Without transparency, accountability remains weak. In 2015, a settlement in a major class action lawsuit leads to changes in California's use of solitary confinement. Indefinite SHU placement based solely on gang affiliation is formally ended. Many prisoners are transferred out of Pelican Bay's SHU. The step-down program, however, remains part of the system. Its legacy persists. For those who pass through it, the program is remembered less as a bridge and more as a holding pattern. It does not erase years of isolation. It does not restore lost time. It does not offer clear answers. The failure of the step-down program lies not in its stated goals, but in its execution. Reform is presented as process rather than outcome. Progress is measured administratively rather than humanely. The system prioritizes control and risk management over rehabilitation. Pelican Bay continues to operate. Its history remains relevant. The step-down program stands as an example of how institutional reform can exist on paper while leaving fundamental conditions unchanged. It demonstrates how bureaucratic structures can absorb criticism without surrendering power. For the men who live through it, the program is not a solution. It is another layer of confinement. Another set of rules without clear meaning. Another promise deferred. The story of the step-down program is not unique. It reflects broader patterns within the U.S. prison system. Programs are announced. Language shifts. Structures remain. What changes is the narrative. Isolation is no longer described as permanent. It is described as conditional. But for many, the condition is never satisfied. Time passes. Reviews occur. Files are updated. Cells remain closed. The step-down program is remembered as reform in name and continuation in practice. It allows the state to claim progress while men remain alone. It transforms isolation into a managed process rather than eliminating it. This is how the system adapts. Not by ending harmful practices, but by rebranding them. If you think this story was intense, the next one will leave you speechless. Subscribe for more true crime stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat.